And here we are again. Welcome, everybody, to the Turbonomic Labs Turbo Tuesday. This is a fun one because I get to dive into some new stuff. I feel I should have like a little breaking news sounder. My name is Eric Wright. If you don't already know me, if you're just joining, I'm the technology evangelist and also director of technical marketing, part of the tech marketing team here, along with my colleague, JBD, the one and only Jacob Ben David, who, if you haven't had a chance to, you need to go into the Wayback Machine, aka go to YouTube and go to our archive and check out. Jacob did a fantastic episode last Tuesday sharing about the deep dive into the cloud demo for Turbonomic. Jacob's just such a fantastic person, and I'm glad to be able to spend time, sharing airtime with him because I know you all enjoy it thoroughly. So we had great viewership, and we're excited too because we're getting a lot of people that are giving us great comments and about the content that we're doing. So please do keep that up. And of course, comments. Speaking of comments, this is a live broadcast. So if you are watching live, if you're on Periscope, we're on YouTube. We are broadcasting right from the Turbonomic Live page. So we go turbonomic.com/labs/live. You'll get right to the broadcast view there. We've embedded the YouTube. And we can interact through all of those things, or of course, LinkedIn Live. So drop us a comment and I can see those live on the screen as we go along. Today, we are going to talk about this very, very cool new feature, which is part of as you may have seen in the blog, Turbonomic 8 is around the corner. So we have actually announced Turbonomic 8, which is incredible. It's been something that we've had in development for quite a period of time, and we're running at significant scale in some really, really great organizations. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of objects being managed with one single and one platform. So this is huge because if you've ever had to deploy things and you have to get an 87-page deployment guide for deploying your management tools, that tells you about the complexity that's involved. So effectively, your scaling guide for Turbo when you deploy Turbo 8 is deploy Turbo 8. That's it. So there you go. We just simplified the complexity problem around scaling and in deployment. It's really, really great. We've completely refactored the under layers. So we are running on our own containerized microservices, which allows us to scale out horizontally or vertically, depending on whatever pattern you follow. And in fact, our SaaS users have been running on our next generation platform since we've actually launched our SaaS offering. So if you do want to, if you're already using SaaS, fantastic. You've been kicking the tires on the new Turbonomic platform for quite a while. So today we're going to talk about something, and this little secret between you and me, because we haven't actually fully announced this, but you're gonna hear the phrase application extensibility. So keep your eyes on the Turbonomic blog and the press releases for something that's coming up that's along those lines. But we're going to dive into it because it's actually available today in your platform. If you're running the Turbonomic R7 stream of the platform, then you're going to be able to see something new. So we're just going to jump right in, and I'll tell you about why this is important. The Turbonomic application resource management platform is all about making sure, of course, that we understand and relate the demand of applications through whatever infrastructure that they sit on and rely on to make sure that we can continuously and automatically get them the resources they need in order to assure application performance. And so from the application, whether it's on containerization, whether it's in Kubernetes, whether it's in virtual infrastructure, whether it's out in the cloud, whether it's VDI, whether it's every kind of storage, converged infrastructure, all the way down to the metal, all the way out to the cloud, to being able to render in one single platform, to be able to understand and relate the demand of applications to the available resources so we can assure performance, do so as efficiently as possible, and while maintaining your business and IT policy compliance, which is literally the trifecta. And it's all done with the ability to fully automate a majority of the actions and capabilities that are within Turbo. So knowing that that is the arm, as we call it, application resource management story, the next piece that we've introduced now with the next generation platform and what will be the core of Turbonomic 8 is our new application centric user experience. And what we've been able to do is really clearly identify. Today, we were pulling a lot of stuff in if you're using an APM provider. So if you're targeting APM, you actually will see this already. You'll see business applications. We can go through your business apps, and what you'll see is this is data that comes in from App Dynamics, data that could be coming in from Dynatrace, as well as from some of our other partners, including New Relic, Prometheus. We support as well. So that was really fantastic because we could now show those entities in there and be able to show the performance impact of resources and how resources affect performance, where the APM providers sort of left off because they can't do that. They don't have an understanding of the infrastructure to resource and the application demand all in real time. So what we found is the IT ops teams love this. So all right, cool. I can go to my app team and I can say, hey, this is great. I've seen my app here, and I can go through and say, hey, I've got my mobile banking app and I'm getting a call saying there's an issue, or I can go back and look over, what's going on in the environment. It's my understanding we've got some health issues. So we can see at every different layer. And we're pulling in automatic data from the APM provider, where we're actually seeing, in this case, you can see it's actually coming in from App D by the logo. So you can see business transactions, services, app components, down to the VMs, and understand the interrelationship literally down to the metal. And we're also showing the transaction flow that's happening inside the application itself. And by doing this, that means that you not only get a call, because you don't get a call because the banking app is down. You get a call because someone says, hey, check scanning's down, or the statements app is down. So you can literally go through and drill right into the statements transaction area. And now you can see all the actions that are related to and affecting the health of that particular layer of the application. So this is cool. We've actually got this today, and we've got a lot of folks that are using it if you're already using APM. But let's go one step further, because the cool thing is, imagine, this is what I said, and I just tweeted it out. It said, no APM, no problem, because we effectively just changed the game on how you can define and assure performance for your business applications. Because even if you've got APM, you probably don't target your entire environment. And if you do, then even inside APM, the definitions are onerous to set up for everything. And the truth is, like, when I look at an application, I think of on my IT ops team, I know what servers generally make up my applications, but I don't get a call about a problem with, SQL 298 or web front end 44. What I do is I get a call saying that, hey, Sunrise is experiencing some difficulty. Or if I want to go through and say, hey, I proactively understand and I preventatively want to be able to look at the health of my Sunrise application, then I can actually drill in. So if I look at this business application layer, let's just zoom in a second, and you're going to see the bonus fries that you have now available today and continuing in development as we head into Turbonomic 8. This is what we have. We're calling them user-defined entities. You'll see we also have this data ingestion framework. There's going to be another episode on that one, so I'm not going to dive into what we call the diff. I guess the fastest funny headline for that would be, what's the diff? So we're going to learn about the data ingestion framework in a second episode. Today, we're going to focus on user-defined entities, or what I call, if you drill right down into here, into your settings, your application topology. So you can create application topology definitions, or ATD. So the application topology definition allows you now to define an application. And what that means is that you can go through and I'll say, I've got an application, and you can either have it be defined automatically based on a set of criteria or manually. In this case, let's go through a quick set of manual steps and show you exactly how easy to set this up. So there's three types of entities that you're going to define in here. There's an application, so a business app, that's that top layer application. There's transactions. So if you've got some flow something that happens that's a service layer that actually performs transactions, and you want to manage that and understands the relationship of those resources there, then you can define it as a transaction. Or also services, because a lot of us are deploying things like database clusters. Now, there's two ways you want to manage your database cluster. One is generally the performance of the cluster itself and the health of the cluster. So you can define that as actual an application, and I've done that. I'll show you in a second. The second thing is you want to create that as a service, because you may have like 25 applications which use that database cluster for the underlying database. So why is this important? Right? Because when you define that as a service and as an application, you can create it and then you can just add it to any application topology definition. So if I look and I want to go through here, and I've done this, it's just this easy, but I'll show you. So I've got right now a manual definition of my cluster. So I've defined a cluster and I said it's based on virtual machine definition. And I've taken that same view and I've taken those same resources and I've defined them as a service as well. So now by having both a service and the cluster, it means that if I go and create a new application, so let's just say manual, we're going to define a business application. It's got a virtual machine on the front end. So let's go ahead and we're going to, this is going to be our cert infrastructure. So every machine that meets this criteria of having cert in the name. So this is where all of these cert machines use a backend database. So I dynamically create this. So any new servers that come on, and you can do it by cluster, by storage, by all these different criteria. And then it uses a service. And if I go through my service list here, you see I've got that DB class A. So I could actually define it dynamically. I'm going to go a rapid route here, and I can just go ahead and check that checkbox. Okay, so what I've got now is I'm going to call it my Cert Lab. So my application that I'm defining is a group of machines that are my Cert Lab. So I know that everything in my Cert Lab is defined together. And it relies on a database service, which is a cluster of machines which are running together. Now, when I wanted to go through and do that, if I take a look now, let's go back to the top here. It's going to take a few minutes. So we have to wait for one discovery cycle to now build the relationships between those resources. But because I already did a couple in advance, so we've got my business application, which is my MariaDB cluster. I want to treat this like an application. So I said it was anything that has the name MariaDB in it, because I've got it on a cluster. So now my business application, if I look at the policies, I look at the actions that are available at the app layer, I'm seeing all of the actions which are showing up in any of the underlying resources. So I'm seeing how many virtual machines make it up, what virtual data center it is, whether it's, it could be on more than one. We see that there's a health issue, right, which is affecting the application. So a quarter of the resources are affected in a negative way, which is affecting the health of the overall application itself. So there's risk, and risk is bad. So we want to get rid of risk, but we want to surface risk right away to the top. And this is it. Literally, by creating this definition now, I know that my database cluster has a risk, and that risk has actions that can be taken in order to assure performance or to make it more efficient if we've over provisioned, or when we're running in the cloud where we've over provisioned and it ultimately is costing us too much because we've made what we believe are performance choices, but in fact are not assuring performance, and they cost us more, right? So now I've got my cluster as a business application, and my IT ops team now just uses that. So they can go and they always know, right? Oh, okay, cool. I've got an understanding of the health. I can see the actions, and it's right there on the front page. Then the next piece was, I remember I said I defined it as a service. So what I've done is, because I've defined this DB cluster, it's the exact same resources, but now it's being created as a dynamic service. So again, If I'm an app ops team, or a help desk or net ops, or you're just your regular IT ops folks, they can immediately drill in and say, hey, okay, what's going on? And look at that. We've even got more issues that are occurring. So we've got additional risk that's happening because even in the amount of time since I went from one screen to the other, this is the proof of a real-time system and the need for dynamic resource allocation. So now what I'm able to do is I could go through and I can look, see what the health is of that service, but most importantly, I can now look at any application that I've defined or that uses this service, and we can define them here. So here's another example where I have an application called Sunrise. So this is our call center application. So the front end for your business is a call center. It's got database services. So it's using that cluster service that we just talked about. There's containerized functions, which are running on the front. So it's using DNS. So it's a self-contained DNS services for service discovery. It's spread across virtual machines. And if you take a look, in this case here, it's running in a cluster where there's a health issue inside the cluster. We've got storage health issues, and we've got definition issues in the containerization layer. So your Kubernetes definitions require additional help. Now, what you'll see here is right now we have response time is not showing up because we're not pulling in the APM because there's no APM tying this. However, using the data ingestion framework, which again, like I said, we'll go through, is it's a bit more of a deep dive into the diff. Then we'll show you how you can actually pull data through the diff and actually now populate these charts. You could effectively go through and you can modify your charts and show different ones at the front end. But the big thing for you is you say, how do I manage my infrastructure so that I know that I'm seeing things in a context that matters to my business? And by doing it this way, you are saying that I know that Sunrise has a lot of services and a lot of applications. And then what happens about dynamic environments, right? Because if you're using things like tagging, if you're, having certain machines that move around, especially if you're using Kubernetes and containerization, you have to make sure that your application discovery is continuous and real time. And you don't even need to worry about setting up all sorts of crazy importers and exporters into service mesh, etc. We just go through, we say, define an application topology. We're going to create a business application. We're going to say add virtual machines where tags, where the app, and let's take a look. Okay, there you go. So we've got we've got a set of apps that are set as staging. So we're going to say that, let's filter that down. Okay, so this is our staging environment. So I'm going to say there's virtual machines, and we're going to call this staging app. And then the same thing can come where you could actually look specifically at, you could set your namespaces, you could set it for particular container pods. So if you want to go down to the container level, if you want to go to the pod level, same thing here. We can take a look. Okay, so we're going to say that we want all the Prometheus apps. So we've got a mid tier. So we've got lots that are showing up there. Okay, we've got 8 machines. So this now, any new pod that comes up that's tagged as Prometheus, and any new virtual machine that's tagged as staging means that it's going to now come up with this definition. And let's go ahead and just say, hey, remember, we want to say that it's anything that also uses, because you may say you've got multiple clusters. So we'll define it. In this case, it's a dynamic definition. It pulls one result, but it's completely dynamic. So if I create DB plus B, DB plus 27, whatever you want to call it, we now have my staging app, which is defined automatically as new applications come online. And this means that you don't have to go back and recheck. You don't have to push agents out. You can automatically discover this. So what you've got is We've got our Cert Lab. Again, we looked at the definition there. I looked at that Sunrise. So let's take a look. Remember, we talked about Sunrise. So here it is. It's just one service. So we knew it was the database cluster. We defined it specifically as 3 virtual machines. We set it as a container pod. So we use the core DNS. So we're monitoring one pod type. And that's it. So in a few clicks, you've created a custom application topology, which on the technical side of it is fantastic for me. Like, I'm so proud of what the team is doing. And this is customer driven, right? Because you, and I know this, I ran a data center at scale for a pretty significant environment. And I look at it and I'd say, like, I need to know all my servers that are database servers that I'm going to have my staging cluster, my user acceptance testing cluster. So you just define those as business apps, as services, and they will automatically come up. And then when you go to your overall business application list, you can see sorted by risk from the top, and then it descends down. If you have a lot, you can show all. And in fact, if you're actually drawing in data today from your from an APM provider or Prometheus, then we're going to see additional advanced metrics which come in that are application specific. You're going to see average response time, peak response time. You're going to see it right here. So you know, like, hey, what's going on? My PT app is actually running way hot. Like, I've got a really, really long response time, and it's up 48% from the previous period. So we're seeing a huge bump over time. And then if we wanted to drill into that app, now again, you go into the app and we take a look at the response time and you spread that out over time. And now you can actually see that impact over time, over the course of the last, say, last up to 30 days. And then if you want to go even further, then we jump over and we take a look at Data Cloud, where you can actually retain 13 months of granular data at this layer with all of the topology that's defined. So it's really, really cool. So you just think about, that's the use case, right? So you want to define your application because you know what your applications are called. And you call it Sunrise or Service 2, or, in this case, if you saw one of the previous episodes we did, we called it Turbo on Turbo. So where we're actually defining Turbonomic, this is Turbonomic. So this is the Turbonomic platform that's been defined using our data ingestion framework. So we're automatically pulling in all of the data and being able to see the business transactions that we've defined through the diff. So there's no APM, no nothing. Right? If you got APM, again, fantastic. Plug it in. It's agentless. We tie into the APM management layer. We pull all that data in automatically, and we relate it to the resources. So you don't need to create charts and graphs and cards and whatever. But this is the data ingestion framework in place where we can actually define services and transactions and see the flow of that. And then being able to understand the relationship from that top layer application, the overall health will be affected by all of the health of each underlying layer. As they say, the we're only as strong as the weakest link, or something like that. So that's what we're facing. When you look at your environment, you want to be able to make it meaningful to you. So first, you define your applications, and you can go ad infinitum. You can define all the apps that you want. You can create your user apps. So you can create automatic business application, based on particular naming. You can set virtual machines based on any criteria. So you can do all these amazing auto discoveries. We can define your own transactions, all of your services. So if we go ahead and we're going to, remember we talked about this, where I'm going to say name equals DNS. Okay, so we have all of our core DNS. We've got all the DNS resources. So we're going to call it DNS service. K8S. There we go. So we We set that up. So we're now going to see all of those come now as a service in the front end. And like I said, as I mentioned, the only downside to doing this completely live in a live demo is that when we do the topology definition, we create this definition that's manually defined, but then dynamic from that point forward based on the criteria set. And we have to go through a discovery cycle in order to now understand the relationships between those resources. So now that we know that my DNS app, as I've defined, has all of these underlying resources. And so I'm going to wait for that polling cycle so that they can all come in and we can see that now, from that point forward in real time. This has definitely been one of the most sort of foundationally, groundbreaking things that a lot of our customers have been incredibly proud of, because they saw how they were already doing stuff. We was moving towards more automation, and even when they automate, they want to be able to see that impact. And that's where, again, like I said, we spin up into doing things like adding data cloud, where you not only see the real time, that sort of near real time currency of information, understanding the performance, but then now you can go through this incredibly long historical view. And then, so anything beyond 30 days, or if you want to do really advanced reporting or data mining, you can jump over into Data Cloud. You're already running Turbo. You're already running, the edition that has applications included. So there you go. You now have the application topology definition. So this is the application extensions or extensibility feature now. And it's huge. It's really, really huge. So look, I could talk all day about this, but you certainly don't want to listen to me talk all day. And the point is, I wanted to show you that we could do this in just a few minutes, so that as you go through and you define your services, that they will ultimately end up arriving in your definition based on that. And in fact, if we hung on for a few minutes, you'd actually see this go to 30, 31. There you go, 30. Look at that. See, real time. This is the ultimate test. No Martha Stewart pre-baked oven on this one. We are going through. So let's go through. Remember, so we had our custom app. We already had the MariaDB cluster. So look at that. There's my Cert Lab. So what is my Cert Lab? My Cert Lab is comprised of the top layer business application. So my certification team, my education team depends on Cert Lab. That's what they call me. They say, problem going on in Cert Lab. Or I want to be able to see how is Cert Lab doing based on current utilization. Can we do things to automate? Are we doing things where we need to scale out to the cloud? Right? So we know it depends on the backend database cluster, which we had already defined as a service. So it's automatically pulling that in. There's 43 virtual machines. So again, drill in at every layer of the stack. Wow, look at that. All the virtual machines that are there. We can see them in descending order of risk and health. And what are the actions we need to take? All right, so we've got one that's running a little hot, so we need to bump up some vCPU. So I could actually just go ahead and I could take that action, or I could automate it. I could see we've over provisioned some, so we can actually dial some back. Same thing. I could take the action now automatically, or set it on a schedule so that it doesn't impact class times, because we can define easy schedules. And I know what clusters and what host it sits on, so I can see exactly what's going on. And I don't need to know what's going on. I don't need to know that, hey, I've got a problem with host 1 and host 2. Turbo already knows that. And so we can actually migrate resources to healthy hosts, or provision and scale as needed when you're out in the cloud. And then we know down the storage layer, same thing. Do we provision or deprovision or move or scale storage? And what application resource management means is getting out of the game of chasing issues that have already occurred, but being preventative in that now you can see what is the risk to me, to my business, to my applications, and what are the actions I can take to reduce and eliminate risk. It's pretty cool. So anyways, I'm going to wrap there because I think this is something that if you want to find out more, if you're already running Turbo, we called it our XL platform. In fact, you may already be running it depending on how far along you are in the adoption process. If you're going to be deploying along a 6X instance, so it's part of the 6 dot stream, then you're going to deploy a parallel installation, and then we'll actually migrate the targets and profiles over, and then we just let it do some discovery, and then you can cut over your policies and move to that new platform. Now, the good thing about this is that these capabilities are available now on this XL stream or the 7X stream. And if you're looking to do things in the vein of moving towards better cloud adoption, more containerization, and your environment needs to grow, it's even more appropriate for you to evaluate where this next generation platform's going to be, in your life cycle. And now also it's hyper available out of the box. We've defined it so that it's inside the service itself. It can fail gracefully. Running the upgrade is simply one configuration change inside a Kubernetes definition inside a Helm chart. So you just change the version number, you do an apply, and that's it. You walk away. 20 minutes later, you are now running the next version. So that rolling update is now super easy. And it's definitely something that we've seen a lot of work's gone through our engineering team. And most importantly, for folks like you who are watching and who share your needs and your use cases that you want us to tackle. And this is the dawn of application extensibility. And I hope that you enjoyed this. If you want to find out more, of course, you can go to the Turbonomic website. Keep watching because we'll have a ton of news. If you're watching us live, of course, here on September 8th, there we go. Then we're going to see a sort of a rolling set of announcements over the coming weeks as we do a ton of stuff. And if you're attending virtual events, we've got a few that are going on. So talk to your account team if you're existing with Turbo. And if not, if you're on the website, you can actually just connect with us through the chat. You can drop us an email. We've got contact info right there. You can click that download link, and it'll take you, if you go to turbonomic.com/releases, then you can download the next generation platform, deploy it alongside your existing installation, and then you're ready to go. You can just add your targets, begin doing the discovery, and you can start to kick the tires on these new features. And then it allows you to stage over as you need, do that initial discovery, and you're in good shape. So I hope this is helpful. That is application extensibility part 1, which is the application topology definitions. We're going to have some more stuff. Of course, if you don't mind, please do give us a comment, drop us in a rating, follow and subscribe. So if you're on YouTube, click on that little subscribe button there, hit the bell. It'll remind you when new broadcasts are coming up and when new videos are available. They're going to have a ton of new content. Myself, Jacob Ben David. You saw we had the one and only Rubik's Master and Cloud Master, Chris Parlett, joined us for talking about Park My Cloud. We're going to be featuring more stuff around our data cloud platform. Sev1 is continuing to roll out incredible new updates. It's just going to be a spinning wheel of goodness over the course of the coming weeks. So I hope to see you all here again soon. Thank you very much. My name is Eric Wright. It's been my pleasure to be here at Turbonomic Labs, and I'll see you in the next show.